Hi, I'm Mark Collins, the author of the book Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default, and also the founder of Freedom for Life. On this episode of the Business Growth Architect Show, we really started to unpack your spiritual as well as your business growth, who you are as the person that you're created to be, really having the impact in your business relationships and life. One aspect that I had a great opportunity to have the conversation with was about overcoming imposter syndrome. Really being able to have the answers to how to overcome it in your business, not have it come along for the ride. And we've talked about strategies to be able to do that and how that would impact all sorts of areas of your life. For the answer to that, how you can overcome imposter syndrome in your business so that it isn't a part of your business any longer, listen to the full episode. I hope you enjoy.
And hello, fabulous person. Beate Gillette here. I am the host of the Business Growth Architect Show, and I want to welcome you to today's episode where we discuss how to navigate strategy and spirituality to achieve time and financial freedom. Truly successful people have learned how to master both: a clear intention and a strategy to execute that, in a spiritual practice that will help them to stay in alignment and on purpose. Please enjoy the show and listen to what our guest today has to say about this very topic. Welcome back to the Business Growth Architect Show. Today I'm here with Mark Collins from Life Mastery, and we're going to be talking about two very interesting topics. One is overcoming fear, imposter syndrome, and kind of like all these things that so many of us are dealing with on a daily basis. And the other thing is, how do you become very successful? And then kind of what do you need to watch out for as you become very successful? Or if you're successful and it's not what it was meant out to be, what the heck are you going to be doing right now? Mark, I'm so excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for the conversation.
Excellent. Mark, for somebody who's never heard of you or is not familiar with your work, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you solve clients' problems?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, the thing that I do, you talked about it, Life Mastery is kind of the umbrella under which we do all the work we do with our clients. And for us, it's really starting to unpack, the things outside of success. The people that I work with are either initial business owners, those early stage entrepreneurs, or people who are highly successful. They both have different areas of their path, but they have the same issues. And those are the things that we had talked about. So for us, it's really bringing tools and strategies and those abilities to really understand life beyond success. For us, we don't invite our clients into a successful environment and try and succeed in business. What I try and do is I tell people I'm not here to make your business better. I'm here to make you better in your business. And the outcome is higher level achievement, greater level net worth, but also greater level fulfillment in the things that you've had. So it's life beyond business, but it actually impacts your business as well. As like I do, who you are in your business is who you are everywhere. And so when we can start to really elevate and maximize who we are in those spaces, now all of a sudden, the outcome of that is relationships are better, communities are better, and my impact in the world is greater than I would have expected.
Right. I like that a lot. Thank you for sharing that. Mark, one of the questions that I'm personally very interested in and that I get a lot is people that are in business for themselves, entrepreneurs, business owners, consultant coaches. Oftentimes there's such a deep definition with the work in the self-expression where I am this. For me, it's literally indistinguishable on who I'm here versus who am I outside. But the question does come ever so often, if I didn't have that, who would I be? Is that something that you see? Is that a fear that people have? Or is there a definition? Or maybe is it an over-reliance on what the business is supposed to give me, where there's where I'm trying to get with this question? Go ahead. I'll let you take it.
No, absolutely. And in fact, it's a very core and foundational part of what we do. What I tell people is really because it's a skill set versus identity issue, right? I've got skills and ability, gifts and talents, and those outcomes are, whatever I'm doing in my business, whatever type of business, whatever role I have within it. The challenge is when you start to look at yourself as whatever those things you are that you're doing. Part of that mindset shift is starting to unpack who you are versus what you achieve. What I tell people is you're either living from who you are or what your life has told you. And for us, that looks like my outcomes telling me who I am versus me having my outcomes because of who I am. The difference between the two is I've had businesses that have succeeded and you feel amazing and great with them. I've had businesses that failed. And for any of, and I'm sure every entrepreneur that's listening to this right now has had both as well, because they're all both part of the journey. The challenge is when my identity comes from my business, when I'm successful, then I'm amazing. I'm this thought leader. I'm the person that's so great at what I do. And when I'm failing, or when the business, I have to shut the doors, I have to declare bankruptcy, I have to do those things that happen when businesses don't work out. Now, all of a sudden, there's this thought process, there's this mindset, there's these mental games that say, okay, well, am I really worth it? Am I somebody that can actually do this? And what I find with the people that I work with is most of who we tell ourselves we are right now comes from who we've believed from our past experiences, even all the way back into childhood, overcoming past trauma, past issues in your life. For myself, business success was proving to my father that I was somebody that was as good as, not feeling like you're measuring up in your own house. You always try and measure up elsewhere. And the thing I found out that I'm sure most of the folks that are listening found out as well was fear of failure and imposter syndrome. They didn't leave when I was successful.
No, what's
They just
that
came
all
along.
about?
They just came along for the ride.
Yes.
Because my identity wasn't living from who I was created to be. It was trying to prove who I am by my outcome. And as you know, maybe from the people you've worked with for sure, it's this hamster wheel of success where when my outcome and my business and my success has to prove who I am, then it's never enough. And I'm always having to reprove it. And the next one is always having to be greater than this one. Otherwise, you have these feelings of, I'm not as good as Bill Gates. I'm not as great as Ed Milet or whoever the person is that you're trying to measure up to. So for us, it all starts with identity. And for us, it's this separation of who are you apart from your things, your outcome, your income, your possessions, your titles, your roles. When we set those things aside, the person that's looking in the mirror is who you really are. And when we can start to unpack that and start to find out that that person actually is the reason for the success, now all of a sudden the success we have becomes fulfillment because it's a byproduct of me living out my calling, my impact, right? That maximized life that I'm desiring for versus me needing to do those things so I show who I am.
So, I mean, basically what you're talking about is like spirituality and strategy in one bucket. There is no difference between how to approach this because so what I'm hearing, and I really, really want to make sure we get this clarified so the beehive gets this. You are saying then the traditional way on how we're being taught how to run a business. It means that if you work hard and you put everything in, you sacrifice, you do all the things that we are told to do. Money doesn't grow on the tree, by the way. That's why you have to hustle, hustle, hustle.
Yeah.
So if we do that, then our reward is when we become successful and we have money in the bank. But you say that's not true. Because if you do that, then you're making dependent on how you feel about the success you're able to achieve. So that means if you don't have the success, you fail, or you always have to look for the next level of success because this piece is not fulfilling. Am I getting this correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's your test. You being the listener, the watcher, the person who's looking into this program. What happens when you don't succeed? And what happens when you do? The people that I work with who are at that mountaintop experience, they experienced the same thing I did, which was that, those things I thought would be cured at the top just came along for the ride. And unfortunately, they were actually intensified. Because when I fail at the bottom, meaning at the beginning of a journey, beginning of the business, I've got a few thousand, 100,000, whatever in it. And, there's an impact in that. And we never want to waste the resources. But the difference between that and somebody who's got a multi-million-dollar business and now all of a sudden there's a catastrophe, there's a business decision, there's a direction I took that really led to a financial downturn. Now all of a sudden there's employees, there's homes, there's incomes, there's futures, there's college, there's all these things that are attached to it. So not only do those things come along for the ride, but now they're more intensified because now all of a sudden there's more at risk, there's more to lose. So yes, it is that challenge of succeeding and understanding that what is the definition of success versus fulfillment. Success is really that thing you're talking about. And by the way, hard work is awesome. I do believe in affirmations. I do believe in drawing to you the outcomes that you believe you're meant to have. But at the end of the day, if my hard work is everything I need to do to succeed, then it's really just success. Fulfillment isn't just success. Fulfillment is me really achieving those goals in my life, but really me living out from who I am. So at the end of the day, I'm not defined by success or failure. You already know people at the top of your head. If I would say that this person was amazing in business and the rest of their life was a disaster, We probably both have relationships of people that look like that. Well, that's a person who I need success to prove who I am, not because of who I am. And the reason I know that is because if all of your life isn't, and if you're not fulfilled in all of those areas, again, the same person you are one place, you are every place. If one area is amazing and another area is a disaster, that's a great indicator that maybe you're using your success as a substitute for identity. Because who I am at work is a person of passion, compassion, strength and fortitude and ability. That's the same person that should show up in marriage and relationships and the people that you have in your life. That's the same person that should show up in parenting and social relationships as well. Who are you? It doesn't mean I'm not focused and intense on the things I'm doing. But again, when I'm living from who I am, those are outcomes of who I am. And so I'm not striving to prove who I am. I'm actually accomplishing because of who I am.
Mm. So let's shift into that a little bit. I find this absolutely fascinating. It is very difficult in my own experience to detach yourself from this getting somewhere to the being more.
Yeah.
How do we start even doing that? So let's say I'm listening to this and I'm going, Mark, that's all great. But the truth of the matter is I can't take my wife out to a nice dinner. My relationship is not as good as it would be if I could spoil her with all the things I would want. So I am not sure if you're telling me the truth, because my wife very clearly told me last week that I need to step it up so I can pay the bills so the kids are taken care of. And now here we are, and we're having in this podcast, we talk about focus on your self-fulfillment and step into your purpose, and then the rest will all come to you. What do we do? How do we explain this in a way that our audience goes, okay, this makes sense, and doesn't think this is just a whole bunch of bogus, for people that are already very successful, that then have a really good problem to solve because they don't have in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs the bottom problems, the food, shelter, safety.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that phrase, champagne problems, right? I'm not that person with the champagne problems that has too much excess and I need to figure myself out in the journey along the way.
Right.
I'm that person that's that entry level entrepreneur. I'm just starting out and I'm trying to figure this out, and maybe my wife or my husband or whoever the person is on board or isn't. And I'm trying to walk towards those things. I mean, wow, there's just so much you can unpack there. And the truth is, activity does not have to stop when I try and work through those issues and challenges in my life, right? It doesn't mean I don't strive for success and fortitude and whatever the social and relational responsibilities that you have, right? I'm not asking you to go out on a retreat and find a guru somewhere and sit on a mountaintop and wait till you find yourself. The thing I'm talking about from the mountaintop was an experience I had that I didn't know about when I was in the valley, when I was an entry-level entrepreneur and really started to try and figure it out and struggling with fear and worry and anxiety and all those issues that happen when you're trying to figure out something you don't have answers to, while at the same time trying to prove you can be successful, to make yourself feel accomplished, but also to prove somebody else wrong or whatever the thing is that's your thing. So at the end of the day, there's a couple of things going on here. One is a level set on a relationship. And we get into the relational part of it. I mean, am I married to a partner or am I married to a roommate? And at the end of the day, for myself and my life with my wife, it was a partnership that walked through that. The thing that I did to walk through that journey, those strategies, those tools, and those truths that I walked in to be able to find out who I was, the person that first impacted was my wife. Here's the interesting thing. Again, who you are in business is who you are in life.
Right.
When I understand who I am in my relationship with my wife, I not only am showing up as the person that she married and the one that she desired, but I give her permission to be who she is as well. When I understand who I am, my relationships are amazing. When I don't, my wife has to make up the difference. In that place of trying to strive and succeed and do those things, the truth of the matter is every relationship suffers because everybody else has to be perfect in my life for me to feel good about me. My business does, my relationships, and everything in between. If you don't walk in this journey, there's two things that are going to happen. You're either going to forego your relationship, put it on the sideline so that you can succeed and prove who you are, or you're going to have challenges in both.
Yeah, to me, it's the line in this movie, Mrs. Doubtfire. That was the reason I made the decision to get a divorce. And there's this moment where Mrs. Doubtfire, who is really the separated husband posing as Mrs. Doubtfire, the nanny, sits at the kitchen table and says, "What was it that drove you to this?"
And she says, because he didn't keep his part, I had to become someone I didn't want to be.
Hmm.
And to me, this is so profound. And I think from what I see in my work, and I'm sure you do the same, is that most problems go back to that. If you take a heavier weight on your business, then it takes time away from your relationships with your partner, with your kids, with family and friends. Then they suffer as a result of it. In order for this to work, now they need to adjust or become something, tiptoe, don't upset you, so that the little time that they have with you, you're not flying off the handle, you're not getting cranky, doing the laundry even though you said you would do it, putting your stuff away even though you said you would do it, taking the kids whereas you said you would do it, just to keep some sort of experience of a normalcy in my life. But that can only work for so long until you've had it. What do I do? How do I know if I put this strain on the people around me? So you said the telltale sign is, honestly, I think the telltale sign if you're in a partnership is if your intimacy is going down the drain. If you miserable and grumpy, nobody wants to sleep with you. Let's just be really clear about that. What are some of the other things that you see where people could say, oh my God, that just happened yesterday?
Yeah, absolutely. And if I could clarify, and it probably was the way I said it, but what I said in general was, if I don't understand who I am, my wife has to make up the difference. And life mastery looks like living who you're created to be at the maximum level that you're created for in every area of your life. And that's in your spiritual realm, that's in your vocation or your business, that is also in your relationships, including with your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is that you have. And so the goal that we have is identify who you are created to be, not just vocationally in that amazing business you have, but relationally. Who's the man or woman that needs to show up to invest in the relationship in a way that's authentic, that's vulnerable, that's honest, that's open, that brings the best of you? And the truth is that there is a agreement that happens in any business, and you know it as well as I do because you lived it and coached it as well. There's this agreement that we had this goal for, and it was the conversations that my wife and I had. We have this goal for business. Well, I had a job at the same time I was starting businesses. Those are both time constraints that happen. Business doesn't happen on accident, and it doesn't happen on weekends. It happens in maximizing your time on a daily basis until you get those successes so that you can do it as a full-time venture. Well, there's agreements that happen in that place that, well, then I'm not going to be able to always go and do those relational things, those parties with friends, those birthdays with not the close and intimate people, but those acquaintances that you kind of should be at, but you don't have time for. When you have goals that are intentional and that are agreed to, then you understand and you can have conversations about what sacrifices need to be made because we've got this that we're going towards. I love my friends and I love my family, but us, my wife and myself and our household, we've got these goals to go for. This is non-negotiable. Because at the end of the day, it's you and me against the world. And this is what we believe is the maximized life that we desire. Well, in the short term, that means that nights and weekends, right? That means long hours. That means those things. It doesn't mean that I ignore my wife for 2, 3, 4 years until we get there. What it does mean is that we have these negotiated and understood agreements because we both have the same vision. We have a unity and a partnership, and we're working towards that. That's not always the case. Sometimes you get inspired and you get, impassioned with the things that you desire after a relationship happens. So how do you know that there's a challenge that's happening? And definitely intimacy. You're definitely right there. But the first one to me is conversation. When you stop being a partner and you start being a roommate, when you start passing each other in the night, when you're talking about tasks lists more than you are relationship, when you're talking about the to-dos in life, hey, pick up the laundry or you need to go do this, but you're not sharing time with each other, you're not sharing conversations, you're not sharing those things about what you're walking through. When it stops to be conversation, it starts becoming checklists of these are the things we need to do, but we've never even asked each other how we are. We haven't shared a glass of wine. We haven't sat to dinner together or what have you. When you start losing those small things, intimacy is definitely a big one. And when you get to that point, I would say that you probably want to have a conversation and take some time and a pause to find out where you can reconnect. Before you've stopped reconnecting in the bedroom, you've probably stopped reconnecting in the kitchen, in the dining room, and everywhere else. It's the roommate versus partner mentality. And sometimes it can happen. Busy happens, schedules happen.
I like this idea a lot, and for full disclosure, I mean, I think I'm definitely something of a workaholic. And what challenges me in this is that I love what I do.
Yeah.
And I really, really deeply am connected to my work and the purpose, helping people to take these ideas and businesses and architect their growth. I mean, when I see some of the things that happen as a result of the work that we do together, the impact this makes is just extraordinary. And I feel so privileged to get these thank you notes. But that does come at an expense sometime. And then when my partner does the same thing, then what? We have an hour a day to be together, and that's really not enough for this. So let's talk about a strategy. I've listened to this and I'm going down that road. My work is too important, either because I need to make the money or because I'm willing to sacrifice, or I love it so much that it's not even work, that I want to do all of this. How do I break the pattern?
Yeah, that's a great question. First and foremost, the thing I would tell you as anybody listening, watching, is I don't believe you have to apologize for your passion. The truth of the matter is people of great impact in the world are that way because they are singularly focused and passionate about what they do. And that's what makes entrepreneurs so
Yeah.
unique and what makes them amazing. One of my biggest challenge in relationships is disconnecting from what I'm doing and passionate about in business and in relate myself business coaching and life coaching as well, in order to invest in the things that matter as well, which is my wife, my children, and family. So the truth of the matter is, I mean, full disclosure on my part, I think balance is a fallacy. I think if you're trying to balance everything and give equal time to everything in your life all of the time, then you're not successful at anything. That you minimize your impact and your ability to do those things that you're really created to do. Again, living from identity, who you created to be. That
Yes.
impact that has, I tell people that I work with, there's an impact in the world that has your name on it. And it's undeniable once you find it. And in that place, there's other things that you need to do. So for us, it's really understanding that, okay, so first and foremost, we have what we call the life mastery life, right? Living life, who you're created to be at the highest level you're created for in every area of life. Well, the only way you can create that highest level life is first and foremost having goals. And so one of my goals is relationship. So there's those times that what I have to do is like with my business. Sometimes we're so good at our business, right? We master our business, we manage our lives. And in that place, we take the tools and we don't take the tools that we've used in business to create in our life. Well, so the first one is everybody has a calendar. You have tasks, you have goals, you have those things that you're doing within the business realm. That's why you succeed at it. Well, where are your tasks? Where's your calendar? Where's your goals for your marriage, for your relationship? And for me, it doesn't mean that I have 3 to 4 hours every night to spend with my wife and to be in relationship. We have those moments. We just had a vacation in Santa Barbara that was wonderful, right? We had time, and it was hard for me to get away and to intentionally not bring my computer, and so I wouldn't accidentally start working on things.
Accidentally.
Yes, right. Oh, oops. Oh, you're doing
Oh,
that.
there's
I
just
can
this
do.
really quick
Yeah,
opportunity that
yeah. I
came in
can
that
have
I
a few.
must respond to.
Right.
Mhm.
But the truth is, right, what you focus on, you increase in your life. So how do I focus on intentional relationship? Not just accountability, but the vulnerable and authentic and awesome relationship that I can have. Well, am I calendaring it? Am I finding time for it? Am I
Well, you
strategically putting those things in place? Am I giving us goals, right? That trip didn't happen on accident. It happened because I blocked the time out ahead of
and
time.
you had to
We
plan
had
it. Yes.
conversations and we planned
Yes.
it, right? And I had to follow through on my part.
Yeah.
And for those of us who are high achievers, it's kind of challenging to do, right? Because it's like, but there's these 10 things I could do, or
What
these
do you
meetings or these
what do you want?
conversations.
Why do you want 2 weeks?
Yes. And 2 weeks can be a challenge. But I guarantee every entrepreneur is able to find that time and to structure their business in a way. If they're doing well at their business, it's because they're delegating well, it's because they're scheduling well, it's because they're not just task managers, but task masters, and they're making sure that their time is meticulously crafted to really maximize their business. And if not, there's skills and abilities you can do. But how do you calendar it in? It doesn't mean that 8 hours of business means 8 hours of home time. It means that These are the things we're going for. Again, we're unified in our vision and our goals for our relationship, our family, and our life. And there's these nuggets of intentional, intimate, specific time where I'm checked out on everything else and we're doing
And fully
us
focused.
time in those
Yeah.
places. So there's a deep investment, even if there's not, that ongoing every hour of every day investment. And for myself with my wife, I mean, we check in several times a day, right? I have time to have a conversation, even if I don't have all the time to go to a dinner every night or lunch together or what have you. So you can find those moments of time, but when you both agree to your vision, you both agree to your calendar, and the calendar means that sometimes things get set aside so that what's most important for this moment, these times, this relationship gets fully invested. And it starts with a goal. What is your goal in that area? If you have none, you'll accomplish nothing. But if
I
you
like that.
have something that you're striving towards, if you have a vision for your marriage as well as your business, you'll start to see those moments where you can invest it in the ways that'll have a really powerful impact, more so than if you were just that workaday person coming home, watching TV together and going to bed.
Yeah,
They're
I see
less
that.
invested in than somebody who's intentionally, specifically, eye to eye, face to face conversation together, having that really specific time that they can spend together.
I like that. This makes a lot of sense. And I think that is to be said for self-care, for all these things that are important. If it's in the calendar, it gets done. If it's not in the calendar, you won't have time
Yeah.
for it, and then it doesn't get done. My final piece, I wanted to speak to you briefly for the last couple minutes of the show, is talk to me about imposter syndrome. Where does this show up, and why does it show up for people?
Yeah, that's a great question. Twofold question. Well, the first, where does it show up? The things that I've noticed in most people's life, right? Imposter syndrome is not feeling like you're qualified for X, whatever your X is. It could be, your promotion into the boardroom. It could be you elevating your business. It could be starting your business and trying to go from that vocational world of having a job to starting a business. I've been there. And in those places, right? Here's the time when imposter syndrome happens. When I'm reaching beyond what I could normally do, when I'm reaching just beyond my control, when I'm dreaming higher, when I'm looking higher in my life and I'm reaching for that thing. None of us gets imposter syndrome by doing the ordinary, right? The things that we can
I
do,
don't
the
have
things that we do
imposter
on a
syndrome
daily
going to the
basis.
grocery store at all. Even in a foreign country, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Or doing bookkeeping or whatever the business functions are. Those things that we are just experts at, or man, I could do it blindfolded. We never worry about those things, but it's in those times where I'm reaching higher. That's where it happens. And that happens for a multitude of people, a multitude of ways. Why it happens is the interesting question. Because why it happens, we think, is a result of me just reaching for greater goals. And here's the thing that I would tell people that I'll give you. Their imposter syndrome is an activity issue. It's an identity issue. Because when we have a failure in business, right, we have a downturn in the market, we make a decision and it doesn't work out the way we want it to. It's never really about the activity. It's what the activity says about me. And imposter syndrome is an identity statement that says that I may not be good enough. Or for those of us who are really hearing those thoughts in our head, that arm wrestling that's going on in our mind is saying this, you're not good enough. They're going to find out that you shouldn't be in this position. Or in business, they're going to find out, your wife, your spouse, your employees, your people around you, that you don't know what you're doing. And this outcome, right, whatever it is going to be a result of that. I like what somebody has said. It's pre-catastrophizing the outcome in your life. It's already assuming the worst before you get to the result. But it's always an identity statement. And again, we start with identity in the work that we do. Who are you apart from those things? If who I am is tied to those things, then my identity is really in my outcome. With the work you do, that could be exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Because I always have to succeed and I always have to be on. And eventually there's a few things that are going to happen. You're either going to burn out, you're going to give up, or you're going to use things, what I call your personal medication, to overcome those feelings. Alcohol, drugs, sex, money, power, whatever those things are. We all have our things if we're trying to medicate against the life we don't want. How we work with imposter syndrome is start to pull you apart from what you're doing as your outcome. Are you good enough before you do those things? Then you're going to be good enough after. If you're not good enough, if you don't have value, if you don't have worth, if you're not a person of impact until you succeed, then you won't be one when you succeed, because it'll always have to be, yeah, but what about next time? So imposter syndrome, the why is the thing that really helps us to not just unpack it, but to overcome it. Because when you start to walk in as the person you're created to be, you start to find out what you're created for. I tell the people I work with, you're the answer to the circumstance you're walking into. You're not the question to be figured out. Imposter syndrome is you being the question that needs to be figured out. Can I do it? Am I good enough? Is it not going to work out like it did in past circumstances or whatever the circumstance that you've walked in? The truth of the matter is when we start to unpack identity, you start to realize that it's not about your strategies. It's not about your business know-how. It's not about your education. You're the secret sauce to the success in your life. You're the answer to the circumstance you're walking into. When you start to unpack who you are, you'll start to see that all of this has just not, I wouldn't call it preordained, but all of this is a part of the impact that you've been created for. When you do that, when you walk in that, when you understand identity, imposter syndrome has no place to land because I'm not impostering anything. I'm showing up authentically, and that's going to bring the success in the boardroom, give me the answers in the business, and back to the thing we talked about, make me the person I'm supposed to be in the relationships I have.
Wonderful. Well, I think this is a great place to end the interview. So, Mark, for somebody who now is interested in checking out more of the work that you do, where would you like them to go?
Yeah, I try and be a one-stop shop to make it easy for everybody. That one-stop shop is my website, which is freedom-4-life.net, freedom-4-life.net. My course, Life Mastery, is out there. Avail yourself of that. I also have my book out there. You can get my book on Amazon, but I created an ebook on my website so that you can have it in your iPad, your phone, whatever device you have, you can carry it along with you. But for some of the people who like the hard copy, like my mom, it's on Amazon as well. But all that is on my website, freedom-4-life.net. You can also reach out to me at Mark, M-A-R-K, at freedom-4-life.net.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you sharing with our audience today.
Thanks for the conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And that's it for us for today. Thank you for listening to or watching this episode. With always, we really are focused on making an impact and helping you to step into what you're meant to become or what you're meant to be, and giving you the tools and the insights on the spiritual and the strategic side. If this conversation resonates, you know someone who needs to hear this, please share this episode with one other person today. We'd be so appreciative. And with that, I say goodbye.
So appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for listening to the entire episode. Please subscribe to the podcast, give us a 5-star review, a comment, and share this episode with one more person so that you can help us help more people. Thank you again. Until next time. Goodbye.